"You're done?" Dorian Cade said, and the badge snapped off Lena Brooks's neck before the investors understood what they were watching. The plastic rectangle hit the epoxy floor and slid through a thin crescent of hydraulic oil. For 1 second, the whole demo day held its breath. The robot arm on stage kept humming. Lena stood beside her cleaner's cart in a Navy contractor uniform, rubber gloves wet at the fingertips, a yellow spill sign folded under one arm. She was 54, black, small-boned, and steady in the way people become when life has already tried the obvious ways to break them. Dorian Cade, founder and chief executive of HelioWare Robotics, held the torn lanyard in one hand. Behind him, 60 investors sat on a raised platform under white shipyard trusses, silver badges shining against dark jackets. Drone cameras hovered near the rafters. A glass control booth glowed above the demo floor. On the main screen, a headline waited for the next applause. North Star Vector Capital, $900 million, strategic merger release. Lena looked at the badge on the floor, then at the oil beneath the robot pedestal. "Dorian," said a young engineer near the control rail, "we still have Axis 4 drift." Dorian did not turn. He smiled for the investors as if the woman in the cleaner's uniform were the malfunction. "I won't let cleaning staff make my future look dirty," he said. A few people laughed because they thought they were supposed to. Lena did not move toward the badge. Her son's red paracord loop still hung from the broken lanyard ring at her collar. Miles had tied it there years before he was crushed against a warehouse cage by a robot whose safety lock had been bypassed for speed. "Don't stop the machine with your body, Ma. Stop it with the record." The badge on the floor was not just a contractor badge. Its front side said Brightline Facilities, L. Brooks, Demo Support. Its backside carried an encrypted S14 observer credential placed there by Northstar's Site Integrity Desk after 3 hidden near-miss complaints at HelioWare. The moment Dorian tore it from her neck, the building check-in system saw forced removal. A warning opened on the control booth screen. S-14, Protected Observer Credential Removed. Site Certification Freeze Pending. Dorian saw the warning reflected in the glass wall. He tapped a command on the booth tablet and closed it. "Resume countdown," he said. Lena finally spoke. "The floor is unsafe." Dorian leaned closer, voice low enough to sound private, loud enough for the first row. "The only unsafe thing on my floor is someone who doesn't know when she's fired." He turned to security. "Take her out through the service gantry." Across the demo hall, Ari Brooks, Lena's niece, stood behind a robotics terminal with her hand over a near-miss export she had been told to edit. Her intern badge trembled against her black sweater. In the AV booth, Quinn Patel lifted his eyes from the video switcher. He had captured everything. The badge tear, the oil, the warning flash, the robot arm's uneven tremor, and the CEO's hand. 28 minutes later, Dorian Cade's $900 million deal would be frozen by a badge he thought belonged to a cleaner. But at that moment, under the old shipyard lights, he believed the future still answered to his voice. The HelioWare campus had once built hulls for ships that crossed oceans under other people's flags. Now it built promises. The old Oakland shipyard had been scrubbed, sealed, painted white, and renamed the Foundry. Where cranes had lifted steel plates, drone cameras now traced graceful circles over demo stages. Where welders had shouted through sparks, founders whispered into headsets. The smell never fully changed. Under the coffee, ozone, projector heat, and lemon floor cleaner, Lena could still smell iron, salt, and oil. She arrived at 5:12 that morning. Demo day would not begin until 11. Contractors always arrived before the future. At the loading dock, a security scanner read the front of her badge. L. Brooks, Brightline Facilities, Access, Demo Floor, Service Gantry, Restrooms, Green Room Corridor. Then the scanner read the back. The guard frowned when his tablet flashed amber. "Your badge did something weird." Lena adjusted the red paracord loop near the clip. "What does it say?" He turned the tablet away. "Probably a vendor update. It should say Site Observer." He looked up fast. "What?" "Nothing you need to handle at the dock." He swallowed, then waved her through. "Badge visible." "It was visible before you looked away." He said nothing. Lena rolled her cart down the service corridor, past crates labeled Robotic Demo Unit H3. past black curtains, past a glass wall where HelioWare employees were setting chairs in perfect rows for investors whose names were printed in metallic ink. FutureStack Live was Dorian Cade's masterpiece. Northstar Vector Capital had agreed to release funding for a strategic merger that would value HelioWare at $900 million if the final site certification cleared. The company promised warehouse robots that could lift, sort, stack, and glide within inches of human workers without harming them. Dorian called the platform Safe Proximity Automation. His marketing team called it a human-centered industrial revolution. Lena had seen the incident reports. Near Miss 1, robot arm entered worker zone during calibration, logged as operator confusion. Near Miss 2, pallet lift paused 3 inches from contractor's leg after manual override, logged as demo obstruction. Near Miss 3, intern filed load test drift concern, reclassified as simulation note. Northstar did not trust the official tour, so they added S-14. Every live demo tied to funding release had to include a protected site integrity observer. If that observer was removed, blocked, retaliated against, or falsely listed as ordinary staff after raising a safety issue, site certification froze automatically. Funding could not release until independent review. Lena had accepted the assignment because she knew robotics and grief. Before Brightline uniforms and night shift cleaning routes, she had been a calibration lead at a smaller robotics manufacturer in Fremont. She knew servo lag, load drift, blind zones, safety envelopes, force limits, and the small change in motor tone when a machine was pretending to obey. She loved the math of motion. She loved making machines stop before humans had to jump. Then Miles got hurt. He was 26. A warehouse technician, good with his hands, impatient with paperwork until paperwork failed him. His warehouse had bypassed a safety lock during peak season. The robot did not crush him to death. Sometimes people said that as if it were mercy. It crushed enough. Pelvis, ribs, nerve damage, 2 surgeries, then complications, then infection, then a final night in a hospital room where machines beeped with perfect obedience while his body stopped. The company called it worker positioning error. Miles had left Lena a voice memo 3 weeks before the injury. Don't stop the machine with your body. Stop it with the record. She had listened to that memo until grief became instruction. At 6:15, Quinn Patel arrived in the AV control booth with 2 thermoses, 1 bad knee, and no patience for founders who treated cables like servants. He was 62, a stagehand union man before venture capital discovered industrial theater. He had lit concerts, city council fights, medical device launches, and one disastrous crypto keynote where a fog machine triggered the fire alarm. Demo events paid well. They also attracted men who believed production crews existed to make reality obey slides. Quinn liked machines honest. HelioWare's room did not feel honest. At 6:42, he heard Lena's voice through a hot floor mic. Axis 4 drift under load. A young engineer answered, "You noticed that from the floor?" "I noticed the sound." Quinn marked the audio. He had learned long ago that the first truthful sentence often comes before anyone important arrives. The last time he ignored one, a contractor paid for it. 12 years earlier, at a product launch for a drone company, Quinn watched a founder force a flight demo in a room with bad positioning lights. The drone crashed into a side screen. A young floor contractor named Raphael was blamed for stepping into the tracking zone. Quinn had the wide feed showing the CEO ordered the safety grid lowered for camera angles. The producer asked Quinn to delete the raw file and keep the polished feed. He did. Raphael lost 3 contracts. Quinn kept working. That was the thing about silence. It rarely takes your job. It sends the bill to someone poorer. At 7:10, Dorian Cade entered the hall. The room reacted to him before he said a word. Engineers straightened. Comm staff checked headsets. The CTO tucked his tablet under one arm. A videographer backed up. Dorian was not tall, but he had the density of someone used to being centered. Black t-shirt under a tailored jacket, expensive sneakers, clean beard. Eyes always already disappointed. He walked straight to the robot. "Why is there a caution sign in my shot?" The CTO, Miles Chen, said, "Small oil bead under the pedestal. Facilities placed it." Dorian looked at Lena across the floor. "Of course they did. It should be logged. Ari said before she could stop herself. Dorian turned. Who said that? Ari straightened. Ari Brooks, robotics intern, load team. I know who you are. I asked why you're volunteering friction. The oil is near the human lane. Axis 4 drift occurred in load tests. The CTO's jaw tightened. Dorian walked closer. Interns who confuse loyalty with ethics don't get return offers. Ari went still. Lena looked at the floor, not because she was submissive, but because she was counting decisions. If she intervened now, Dorian would connect her to Ari. He would say the intern leaked safety logs to her aunt. He would turn a safety issue into family betrayal and bury the near-miss report beneath an HR investigation. Sacred restraint is not patience. It is choosing the pain that keeps evidence alive. Lena remained by the cart. Dorian turned to the CTO. Reset the story. Axis drift is a camera artifact unless North Star's auditor asks. The CTO spoke softly. S14 requires unresolved drift disclosure. S14 can be cleaned up after close, Lena said under her breath. Safety certification doesn't rewind after a public run. Quinn heard it through the floor mic. He marked that too. At 9:05, Dorian gathered the demo team in the glass booth. Quinn had audio because the booth comms were patched through event recording. I want no visible maintenance on the floor during investor walkthrough, Dorian said. The CTO said, there is still oil. There is always oil around machines. Not in the human lane. Then wipe it. Safety protocol says pause. Dorian leaned on the table. In my company, safety follows velocity. Quinn closed his eyes. A sentence like that should come with a siren. Ari stood near the wall, tablet against her chest. Dorian looked at her. You will update the near-miss log to reflect visual artifact. I can't. You can. The timestamp is tied to load telemetry. Then change the note field. That would be false. Dorian smiled. That would be employed. No one in the booth laughed. That made him angrier. He turned to the CTO. Handle your intern. At 9:18, Dorian signed the demo safety certification. No unresolved site integrity, observer, worker safety, or robotics bypass issue exists. He signed after being told about the oil, after the drift, after the missing Appendix S, after the intern refused to edit the log. That signature would matter later. At 10:02, investors filled the riser. FutureStack Live began with music low enough to sound expensive. Drone cameras rose. The robot arm woke in a smooth arc. The main screen displayed warehouse footage of smiling workers standing near machines that had never been in the same room as the live robot. Dorian took the stage. Warehouses have always asked humans to adapt to machines, he said. At HelioWare, machines adapt to humans. Lena stood near the side lane with a mop handle in one hand. The robot arm rotated. Axis 4 trembled. Not enough for the untrained eye. Enough for Lena. Oil spread another inch toward the cable track. She unfolded the yellow sign and stepped closer. A camera operator whispered, "Can we get her out of frame?" Dorian saw her on the floor monitor. His smile stayed in place. His eyes did not. He kept talking. Safety is not a brake on progress. Safety is what allows progress to move faster. The investors liked that line. Lena hated it. She moved the sign where a person might actually step, not where it looked neat on camera. Dorian stopped mid-sentence. "Facilities," he said, still smiling. "We'll take care of that after the run." "It's active oil," Lena said. The room heard her because Quinn did not lower the floor mic. Dorian laughed. "Investors came to see automation, not mops." A few chuckles. Lena said, "They should see the floor the automation runs on." The chuckles stopped. Dorian descended one step from the stage. "Cleaning staff hear motors and think they're engineers." Lena looked at the robot. "Sometimes engineers forget to listen." That was when he walked over and grabbed her badge. A human body knows when power touches it before the mind names the act. Lena's shoulders tightened. Her hand closed around the mop handle, then opened. "Not with your body, with the record." Dorian yanked. The lanyard snapped. The badge struck the floor and slid through oil. "You're done," he said. "I won't let cleaning staff make my future look dirty." The room watched. Investors, engineers, interns, a V crew, security, cameras, not all understood the violence of it. Enough did. Dorian kicked the badge toward security. Get her out. The badge's NFC field had already fired. In the glass booth, the access system opened the S-14 warning. Protected observer credential removed. Site certification freeze pending. The CTO saw it. Ares saw it. Quinn captured it on the booth camera. Dorian saw the warning and closed it. That was the hand that froze the deal. Security Supervisor Joelle Marsh approached Lena. Ma'am, come with me. Lena held Joelle's gaze. Do not touch the badge with bare hands. Joelle hesitated. Dorian snapped, It's a fired contractor badge, not evidence. Lena said, Then you won't mind preserving it. Joelle swallowed. She pulled a clean glove from Lena's cart and picked up the badge. Quinn almost smiled. At 10:14, Lena was escorted through the side exit to the service gantry behind the demo hall. It was a narrow steel walkway left over from the shipyard days, with cables running along one wall and server fans groaning behind a mesh panel. Through a relay screen, she could see Dorian return to the stage as if the future had merely paused for a stain. Ari was being guided toward HR in the glass booth. Quinn's raw feed indicator flashed. Dorian said into his headset, Run the pallet sequence, full speed. The CTO answered, We are in certification freeze. Local freeze, not North Star freeze. The badge alert is S-14. Once North Star wires, S-14 becomes cleanup. Lena removed her phone from her uniform pocket. The North Star Site Integrity Desk answered on the first ring. Lena Brooks, Observer S-14, HelioWare Demo Day, protected badge forcibly removed by CEO during live certification after oil leak and Axis 4 drift warning. Preserve safety logs, badge access, video feed, control audio, robot telemetry, and funding release. The voice on the line changed. Confirm safety. Safe. On service gantry, niece Ari Brooks being pressured regarding near-miss export. Do not kill the jobs. Do not blame interns. Freeze the lie. Integrity hold initiated at 10:16. Deal counsel Maya Wren notified. Lena ended the call and leaned one hand against the steel rail. For 5 seconds, she let herself shake. Then she stopped. Not because she was no longer afraid, because the record had started. Inside HR Booth 3, Ari sat across from a people operations manager with a statement on a tablet. I confirm that Lena Brooks entered the restricted robot zone without authorization, interfered with demo day operations, and made unsupported technical claims regarding safety. Ari read it once. She was authorized. The manager, Elspeth Vale, smiled too softly. She was cleaning support. She was near an active leak. That is not your area. I am on load team. Axis 4 drift is my area. Your return offer is not guaranteed, Ari. Ari looked at the glass wall. Dorian was back on stage. The robot had moved into pallet-ready position. Investors leaned forward. Is that a threat? It is context. Ari's tablet buzzed. Unknown sender? Near-miss export copy preserved. Do not sign false statement. QP. A file attached. Ari looked toward the AV booth. Quinn was not visible. She lifted her chin. I want North Star Council present. Elspeth's smile disappeared. For an intern? Yes. In the AV booth, Quinn Patel had one finger over the delete command. The production director stood behind him. Dorian wants raw feeds cleared. Presentation only mode from now on. The raw feed includes a safety incident. It includes an awkward contractor moment. It includes a CEO removing an S-14 badge. The production director froze. You saw that? So did the camera. Delete it. Quinn thought of Raphael, the contractor from 12 years ago, standing under a loading dock light with a backpack and no contracts left. Quinn had told himself then that one video file could not fight a company. The lie had aged badly. No, Quinn said. The director blinked. Excuse me? No. You are contract. Yes. Then act replaceable. Quinn copied the booth audio, raw floor feed, access alert, presentation-only mode request, and telemetry overlay to an external drive. Then he uploaded the timecode package to the Northstar Integrity inbox that had just appeared on the event network. Replaceable people keep better records, he said. At 10:20, the demo countdown restarted. Dorian stood beneath a screen showing a worker smiling beside a HelioWare robot. "We design not for the absence of humans," he told the investors, "but for the dignity of human presence." Lena watched from the gantry screen and almost laughed. The robot arm lifted. Axis 4 trembled under load. The pallet rose 6 inches, then 12. Then the deal freeze call hit the control booth. A red banner spread across the main operating screen. S-14, Site Integrity Hold. Live demo must enter safe mode. Funding release frozen pending review. The robot stopped mid-lift. Not dramatically, not with sparks. It froze with the calm precision of a machine finally obeying the right command. The pallet hung in the air. Dorian turned toward the booth. "What did you do?" The CTO's face had gone pale. "That is not us." On the investor riser, people sat forward. Maya Wren entered through the side door. She wore a charcoal suit, no lanyard, and the expression of a lawyer who had never confused volume with authority. Joelle Marsh walked beside her carrying Lena's badge and a clear evidence sleeve. Lena followed them, still in uniform, still holding the broken lanyard with the red paracord loop. Dorian saw her and stepped down from the stage. "Absolutely not. She was removed," Maya said, improperly. "This is my facility. Not during an S-14 certification event tied to Northstar funding." Dorian laughed once. "Do you understand the scale of this transaction? Do you understand the clause you signed?" The room tightened. Maya walked to the demo table and placed the evidence sleeve in the center. The scratched plastic badge looked small under the stage lights. Lena asked the question. "Who certified no observer issue after removing this badge?" No one answered. That was the power of the question. It did not accuse first. It opened the field where the record could walk in. Dorian said, "She is a cleaner with a vendetta." Maya turned to the investors. "Lena Brooks is a protected site integrity observer under S-14, designated through the Brightline vendor roster before demo day. Her observer credential is encoded on the reverse of this badge. Removal or retaliation during live certification automatically freezes site approval and funding release." An investor whispered, "Jesus." Dorian pointed at Lena. "She hid her status." Lena said, "You didn't need my status to not tear a badge off my neck." Quinn stepped out of the AV booth with a tablet. "I have the raw feed." Dorian snapped, "You were instructed to delete technical glitches." Quinn said, "I kept the time code." Ari entered from HR Booth 3 with a printed near-miss export. "And I have the load test record." Dorian stared at her. "Ari!" She flinched. Lena took one step closer, not in front of her, beside her. Maya opened the file on the main screen. Near-miss log, Axis 4 drift, load test timestamp, CTO edit request, oil leak photo, certification signature at 9:18, badge removal at 10:13, S-14 alert, closed by CEO credential DKADE-01. Presentation-only camera mode requested at 10:11. Control booth audio. Quinn played it. Dorian's voice filled the hall. "In my company, safety follows velocity." Then another clip. "Get the cleaner and her intern niece off the floor before Northstar asks." Then the line from moments before. "I won't let cleaning staff make my future look dirty." No one laughed now. The robot arm remained frozen behind him, holding the pallet like a question. Maya read from S-14. During any live site certification event tied to funding release, removal, obstruction, retaliation, or false classification of a protected site integrity observer shall freeze site certification and suspend release of funds. Certification is non-waivable where live robotics safety risk is unresolved. Dorian spoke through his teeth. This was a cosmetic incident. Maya looked at the robot telemetry. Axis 4 drift under load is not cosmetic. The machine was in control. The machine entered safe mode because the site was not. That landed. Northstar's lead investor, Bastian Cole, stood from the riser. He had said almost nothing all morning. Dorian, he said, if your machine needs a cleaner erase to look safe, it isn't safe. Dorian's face flushed. You came here to invest in speed. We came here to invest in controlled speed. Founders build through friction. Workers die in friction, you hide. The hall went silent. Dorian looked back at Maya. You are not killing a $900 million deal over a badge. Maya replied, correct. Your hand froze it. Lena looked at Dorian. The badge did not freeze your deal. Your hand did. At 10:32, North Star formally froze the funding release. Not canceled, frozen. That mattered. It preserved HelioWare jobs while stopping Dorian from using closing momentum to bury safety debt. At 10:36, the HelioWare board observer joined the call from New York. At 10:41, Dorian Cade was suspended from active CEO authority pending independent review of false certification, protected observer retaliation, demo safety bypass, intern coercion, and incident log manipulation. He did not look ruined at first. He looked confused that the room had stopped centering him. The company is me, he said to the board observer. Ari whispered, no, it isn't. He heard her. That made it worse. Joel Marsh, the security supervisor, approached Dorian. Demo remote. He held it tighter. It is not a weapon. No, she said. It is evidence access. Slowly, he placed the black remote on the demo table beside Lena's scratched badge. Two objects under the bright lights. One controlled the machine. One controlled the truth. The investors looked at the badge. That was the photograph no photographer had been invited to take, but Quinn's raw feed captured it anyway. Dorian left the demo hall through the investor entrance, not because he deserved the front, but because Maya refused to let security drag a founder through the back and give his supporters a martyr image. He walked out under his own power, past the frozen robot, past the missing Appendix S, past the intern he had threatened, past the cleaner whose badge he had mistaken for plastic. When he was gone, the hall exhaled badly. People started speaking all at once. Investors to counsel, engineers to each other, board observers to legal, security to operations. Lena went to the spill. Ari grabbed her arm. Auntie, you don't have to. Oil is still oil. After all that, especially after all that, nobody slips on justice. Lena unfolded the caution sign and set it exactly where it belonged. Then she knelt and placed absorbent pads around the pedestal while the robot remained locked in safe mode. Maya watched. Ms. Brooks, the floor can wait. No, Lena said. The floor has waited too long. Ari knelt beside her. Lena looked at her. Did you sign? No. Good. I almost did. I know. I was scared. Good. Fear is a sensor. Do not let them rename it weakness. Ari swallowed. Did I ruin my career? No. Dorian tried to build your career on a false log. That is different. Ari pressed her lips together. I kept the export. And now the export keeps you. At 11:05, North Star's independent robotics safety auditor arrived. He was an older woman named Dr. Celine Park, with silver hair, steel-toed boots, and no interest in founder mythology. She reviewed the telemetry, watched the raw feed, inspected the oil leak, and examined the robot's safety envelope. Demo should not have run, she said after 14 minutes. The CTO looked like he might be sick. Could it have struck the human lane? Under full load and continued drift, yes. Would safe mode have caught it? Maybe. A safety plan built on maybe is a prayer, not engineering. Lena liked her. By afternoon, HelioWare looked less like a future campus and more like a place where people with clipboards had finally been allowed to enter the right rooms. Funding release frozen. S-14 site certification suspended. Live demos halted. Board review active. Engineering log preservation order issued. Intern retaliation hold. Contractor discipline freeze. Appendix S demanded in full. The headlines came later. Founder drama at robotics startup. North Star freezes $900 million deal. Demo day safety incident. Some stories called Lena a janitor. Some called her a cleaner. One called her a secret auditor. None understood that the important word was observer. An observer does not create the truth. She refuses to let it pass uncounted. That night, Lena and Ari left through the main glass doors of the foundry, not the service gantry. Quinn walked with them, carrying the sealed raw feed drive. Maya remained behind on calls. Joelle walked them past security without asking anyone's permission. Outside, the old shipyard crane stood dark against the evening sky. The bay smelled of salt and diesel. Across the water, the city lights flickered like instruments not yet calibrated. Ari stopped on the sidewalk. "I should have told you about the drift earlier. You told me before the robot hurt anyone. I should have refused the edit request faster." "Maybe?" Ari looked wounded. Lena softened her voice. "Maybe is not condemnation. It is where training goes." Ari nodded. Then she looked at the red paracord loop hanging from Lena's broken lanyard. "Was that Miles's?" "Yes." "He tied it?" "After the first surgery. He said the hospital badges were too flimsy. Tied this on mine so I wouldn't lose access when he needed me." Ari touched it lightly. "I miss him." "So do I." "Would he be proud?" Lena looked back at the building. "He would ask why the badge had to do what a conscience should have done." Ari laughed once through tears. "That sounds like him." "Yes." Quinn cleared his throat. "I owe you both something." Lena turned. He held the sealed drive. "I kept the feed tonight. Years ago I didn't. A contractor got blamed for a crash a CEO caused. I deleted the raw file." Ari looked at him sharply. "Why?" "Because I was afraid of losing work." Lena said nothing. Quinn's face folded around the old shame. "I found him last year. Raphael. He repairs school theater lights now. I apologized. He told me he already knew the truth, which made it worse." "It usually does," Lena said. "I am not asking forgiveness." "Good. I just want you to know why I kept it." Lena looked at the drive. "Tonight you kept the feed." His eyes shone. "Does that count?" "It does not erase. It counts." He nodded. The next morning, HelioWare's interim leadership held an all-hands meeting. Dorian was not there. That alone made the room strange. The interim CEO was Marisol Grant, formerly head of field operations. She had spent years listening to warehouse crews explain why clean demo rooms lied about dirty floors. She did not wear founder black. She wore work boots and a blazer. "We are not shutting down HelioWare today," she said. "People have rent. Customers have pilots. Workers have lives attached to our decisions. But no robot will run live until the safety review clears it. No intern will be punished for preserving logs. No contractor will be disciplined for the S-14 incident. And no executive will describe safety as something that follows velocity." Applause started, then stopped, because people did not yet know what kind of room they were in. Marisol continued. "If you are waiting for us to say this was a communications issue, stop waiting." Lena watched from the back wall. She had been asked to attend. She had refused a front row seat. Front rows have gravity. She preferred edges, where exits and evidence live. Ari stood with the engineering interns. Her shoulders were tense, but she did not look down. "Doctor." Celine Park presented the preliminary safety findings. Axis 4, drift under load, oil leak at pedestal, camera framing prioritized over safety visibility, presentation only mode requested before incident, Appendix S omitted, observer credential removed by CEO, certification signed with unresolved issues. Each point landed like a bolt tightened correctly. When the meeting ended, Marisol approached Lena. "Ms. Brooks, would you consult on the safety remediation?" "No." Marisol blinked. "May I ask why?" "You want my grief to become your credibility." Ari inhaled. Marisol did not flinch. "That is fair. It is not all. I'm listening. I will review the observer protocol, the intern protection language, and the raw feed retention rule. I will not stand in front of your workers as proof the company is clean." Marisol nodded slowly. 3 scoped reviews. Written authority. No PR use. Paid, of course, at a rate higher than emergency cleanup. For the first time, Marisol smiled. Also fair. Lena agreed to the work. Not because she trusted HelioWare, because distrust can be useful if you give it a clipboard. The first repair was the badge protocol. Protected observer removal now froze site certification instantly, displayed the freeze on the public demo board, and notified investors, board observers, and insurance underwriters. No executive could close the alert. Only Independent Safety Council could clear it. The second repair was raw feed retention. Presentation-only mode could not disable safety feeds. Control booth audio, badge logs, and telemetry overlays were preserved automatically if any worker, contractor, intern, or observer raised safety language. Drift, leak, bypass, unsafe, unlogged, near miss, lockout, forced retaliation. Quinn suggested adding cleanup. People looked at him. He said, "That is what executives call problems they want after the money." It was added. The third repair was intern objection routing. ARI helped design it. Any intern or junior engineer could freeze an edit request on a safety log without notifying the manager who issued the request. The objection created a timestamp visible to the intern. Retaliation triggered independent review. When the lawyers tried to soften the word retaliation, ARI said, "If the word is too ugly for the policy, maybe the conduct is too ugly for the company." Lena wrote that down. North Star kept the deal frozen for 9 weeks. 9 weeks is long enough for founders to rage, markets to speculate, employees to panic, and lawyers to turn simple facts into architecture. North Star did not cancel outright because HelioWare's technology was real and the jobs were real. It did not release funding because Dorian's version of reality was not. The deal restructured. $900 million became conditional. Governance changed. Dorian lost voting control. A safety oversight board was installed. Appendix S became mandatory in all investor packets. Funding tranches tied to field safety metrics, not demo applause. Dorian called it a coup in private and a sabbatical in public. Nobody with signature authority believed either word. ARI received whistleblower protection and a full-time offer in safety systems, reporting outside the chain that had threatened her. She did not accept immediately. Lena made her read the offer twice, then once angry, then once hungry, then once after sleep. Only then did ARI sign. Quinn became Demo Records preservation trainer for HelioWare, and later for 3 other North Star portfolio companies that suddenly discovered raw feeds were cheaper than lawsuits. His first slide said, "The camera that makes the room look good is not always the camera that tells the truth." His second slide was a still image of Dorian's hand tearing Lena's badge, not her face, not her humiliation, just the hand, the badge, and the time code. "Never center the victim when the evidence can center the act," he told the room. Lena approved of that sentence. 3 months later, Lena returned to the foundry for the first public safety demonstration under the new rules. She wore no cleaner uniform. She wore black pants, a gray jacket, and the same red paracord loop clipped to a new badge. The front read, "Lena Brooks, Independent Site Integrity." The back still held S-14. The demo hall looked different, not less polished, more honest. A public safety board stood beside the investor screen. It displayed active observer status, robot telemetry, safety envelope, bypass status, near-miss count, and raw feed retention. A worker from a partner warehouse stood on stage with Dr. Park and ARI, not as decoration, as someone authorized to stop the run. Marisol opened the event. "Today's demonstration begins with the record," she said. Lena stood near the side lane. Old habits. Quinn was in the AV booth. He gave her a thumbs up. She did not return it. She looked at the badge log. Observer active. Raw feed recording. Telemetry live. Bypass, none. Axis 4 drift, within tolerance. Oil leak, none. ARI walked to the robot and placed her hand above the stop boundary. Human lane active. The robot waited. That was the sound Lena loved most from machines. Waiting. The run began. The robot lifted a pallet, rotated, slowed near the human lane, adjusted, and stopped exactly where it should. No drama, no music swell, no miracle. Just engineering behaving because people had refused to lie. When the run ended, the applause was smaller than Dorian's old demo would have demanded. It was better. Afterward, Lena walked to the old spill location. The floor was clean. She placed her hand in her pocket where Miles's red paracord brushed her fingers. ARI joined her. "You okay?" "No." ARI nodded. "You proud?" "Yes." "Both?" "Most honest things are both." ARI smiled. "I used your line in the intern policy. I know. Mad? No. Good. Credit your sources. Ari laughed. Yes, Aunt Lena. Near the demo table, a small display case had been installed. Lena had objected at first. She did not want her humiliation made into corporate decor. Marisol agreed and changed the plan. The case did not show a large photo, no dramatic caption, no hero copy. Inside were 3 objects: the scratched S14 badge, the broken lanyard ring, and a short piece of Miles's red paracord that Lena had cut from the old loop. Beside them was the safe mode log from the frozen demo. The label read S-14, Site Integrity. Don't stop the machine with your body. Stop it with the record. Under it, a second line. Funding release frozen when observer credential was removed during unresolved safety risk. Cold words, useful words. Lena stood before the case for a long time. Marisol approached, but did not interrupt. Finally, Lena said, "This cannot become a shrine." "It won't. Shrines make people feel finished." "It is a rule station," Marisol said. "Every demo team scans the badge log here before setup." Lena looked at her. "Good answer. It took 3 drafts." "I can tell." Marisol smiled. The company did not heal because of a display case. It healed only where procedures changed under stress. Some engineers resented the oversight. Some investors grumbled about slower demos. Some managers still used words like velocity as if speed had moral force. But now interns had a channel. Contractors had observer paths. A V had retention authority. The robot could not be made safe by hiding the person who noticed danger. That was not justice in full. It was a better lock on a dangerous door. One evening after the new demo, Lena and Ari drove to the warehouse where Miles had worked. It had changed names twice. The robot cells had been replaced. The parking lot still sloped toward a drain clogged with leaves. They sat in the car without getting out. Ari held the new badge in her lap. "I don't remember his voice as well anymore," she said. Lena looked through the windshield. "I do." "Does that make it harder?" "Sometimes." "What did he sound like when he said the record line?" "Tired, angry, trying not to scare me." "Did he know that he would get hurt?" "No, that you'd become this." Lena smiled sadly. "Miles thought I could fix anything if I had enough folders." He wasn't wrong. He was young. Also, not wrong. They sat there until the sky darkened. Finally, Lena said, "He did not die so companies could use his line." "I know. He did not die to make me brave." "I know. He died because people bypassed a lock and wrote the wrong story." Ari nodded. "So, we write the right one?" Lena looked at her. "We write the verifiable one." Ari leaned back. "You always make it less poetic." "Poetry cannot clear a safety hold." "No, but it can keep people awake." Lena accepted that. Months later, Northstar released the first conditional funding tranche under the restructured deal. Not $900 million all at once. Not under Dorian. Not without S14. The company survived, but the founder mythology did not. That mattered to Lena less than payroll protection for technicians, contractor injury review, and the fact that Ari could object to a safety edit without losing her future before lunch. Dorian Cade started a podcast about founder resilience. Lena never listened. Quinn did once and texted her. "He says bureaucracy killed innovation." Lena replied, "Good. Let bureaucracy do one useful thing." Quinn sent back a laughing emoji, then a PDF of the latest raw feed retention training. He had added a section called Founder Pressure and Evidence Hygiene. Lena told him evidence hygiene sounded like a soap brand. He kept it anyway. A year after FutureStack Live, HelioWare held a safety certification day for warehouse workers, not investors. No drone cameras, no champagne, folding chairs, coffee urns, and a live robot behind a locked boundary. Lena attended because Ari was presenting. A warehouse worker raised his hand. "What if a supervisor tells us not to hit stop because downtime hurts metrics?" Ari answered before the safety auditor could. "Then hit stop and log the instruction. A metric that needs you quiet is not a safety metric." Lena looked down. Miles would have liked her. Lena left through the main corridor. The service gantry doors were open, not hidden, but she did not use them. Outside, the old shipyard cranes cut black shapes against a pink evening sky. The bay wind smelled like salt and metal. Ari caught up with her. Hey, you vanished after my presentation. I was not needed. I wanted you there. I was there. I mean near the front. Lena stopped. Ari, front rows are not proof of love. I know. Do you? Ari sighed. Maybe not all the way. Lena touched the red paracord loop on Ari's badge. Ari had tied her own after accepting the safety role. Love is sometimes a person at the side making sure the exit is clear. Ari's eyes softened. That sounds like Miles. It sounds like every worker who has ever watched a door. They walked together to the parking lot. Behind them, in the demo hall, the public certification board cycled through its status lines. Observer active, raw feed recording, bypass disabled, funding release conditional, safety hold authority distributed. No one applauded the board. That was fine. The best records do not need applause. They need to remain on when someone powerful reaches for the switch. If you were Quinn and a CEO ordered you to delete the raw feed proving a protected badge was removed, would you erase the file or keep the time code? Tell me in the comments. I would keep the time code. This story is a fictional dramatization about dignity, robotics safety, and why one small badge can weigh more than $900 million when the record behind it is still alive.